talk about employee engagement, that the goal is how do we engage our employees with excellence and get the most from them and with them. So I'm going to introduce two individuals that brings a smile to my face as I drive. One is Paul Burke. Paul Burke and I worked side by side for about a decade at Convene, and then he left to become a consultant into mid-market businesses. He has an amazing expertise in finance and operations and is an amazing thinker who has found himself as being part of the founding brain trust of Co.tribute, and in that will be helping present on this idea of employee engagement. So it's always great to hear the Paul name and his idea of how do we ignite millennials and get them contributing effectively. By his side today is Angela Ferraro, who is a bundle of energy and joy and has this amazing life of working in the marketplace in the HR function. So she was the Billabong HR director for 5 years, developed an amazing practice helping businesses be more effective in the HR human capital space. So lots of places where she's had impact in the church and in the marketplace. But today the impact of Paul and Angela will be on employee engagement. So let me turn it over to them with much gratitude. Thank you for joining us today, for sponsoring the CEO Summit and putting this content together this morning.
Hey, Mark, thanks so much. We really appreciate the opportunity to be able to share with your people here some of the stuff that we're just so excited about. And before we dive into what is employee engagement, how do we build it, stuff like this, I kind of want to start with the end, right? Which is we're all working to build businesses that are valuable, that deliver revenue growth and subsequent profits. And so I want to kind of start with the end, which is this case study that was done on United Stationers. You know, they were a $3.7 billion business back in the early 2000s after the dot-com bust. And they were able to actually grow it through the dot-com bust and through the recession in 2008. And by 2010, they were at 4.8 billion. And they were actually able to grow their stock value by 123% compared to the market average of 59% growth. And so what Dick Gockenauer, former CEO of United Stationers, said was values-based companies are not only more rewarding to work in, but they get higher sustainable results over time. And so to drive growth by instilling purpose was one of the key elements. With the United Stationers story. And so I just wanted to run through that with you briefly as we dive into this, because I think it sets the stage for what a highly engaged, purpose-driven company can do and what the team can get done. So Angela, you're a resident expert with engagement, so and culture building. And so tell us about how purpose worked for American Stationers. What trends makes this so important today?
Well, I think that's an important question because most of us are not running a multi-billion-dollar company. And I think what makes it applicable to us is that there's a swelling workforce trend that I think a lot of us are intuitively seeing, and research certainly supports that people are more and more seeing work as a calling. And I think if we think about ourselves and we had a choice if my specific purpose and the purpose of my company are going to be separate or included with each other, I think that most of us would intuitively choose to integrate my purpose with the purpose of my company. And so really what the relationship is here that we're seeing in research is that as people are seeing work as a calling, purpose in the workplace becomes more important and of course drives engagement, which is what we're talking about today. So if we look at some examples of research, we have some pretty solid names up here that we're looking at. So if you look at the Wall Street Journal, one of the articles they have is "I don't have a job, I have a higher calling." And we're also looking at Harvard Business Review as an example of employees finding meaning in their work. 2.8 times more likely to stay with their organization. Obviously, retention is important. I think a lot of us may not have some of those HR numbers tucked away in our heads, but the average cost that you have if you lose an employee is going to be 20% of their annual income, and that adds up pretty quickly if your attrition rate increases. So anything that we can do to retain employees is obviously going to hit our bottom line. In addition to that, this number is huge, 93%, which when I saw the research, that was actually higher than my intuition, which tells us that we need to make sure that our gut responses of what we're observing in research are being aligned. So 93% are more engaged, and 2.2 times are more satisfied if they are able to integrate their purpose in with the purpose of the company. And this is really just the beginning, because the millennial generation is going to be 50% of the workforce by 2020, and 2020 is not that far off. So this is really an indication that even if I personally don't have a felt need to integrate those, my workforce does, and so it's in my best interest as a business leader to make sure that I'm taking this whole engagement issue seriously, the whole purpose in work seriously. So the question then becomes, what could you achieve if your best younger talent was 93%, again, big number, 93% more engaged with their work and with your company?
Hey, Angela, you said 93% more engaged and 2.2 times more satisfied. But can you tell us more about what the difference is that you found between satisfaction and engagement?
Yeah, I have a 7-year-old, and we do homeschooling, and I think about this kind of in terms of him. So he could be 100% satisfied with his homeschooling experience by sitting in the front of the TV and saying that he's learning, and he would be 100% satisfied. However, I think we could all agree he wouldn't be 100% engaged in what he's doing and contributing to the bottom line of creating a responsible adult on the back end. And so really 20 years ago or so when I started HR, people really did talk about employee satisfaction, and studies were done and interventions were done, and you really don't hear about that very much anymore, because as research was done, it was clearly demonstrated that although employees talked about it a lot, there wasn't a cause-effect relationship with business outcome. Similar to my child's satisfaction with his education experience doesn't have a cause-effect relationship with the outcome and success of his schooling. Very, very similar idea. And so people have really dropped the idea of employee satisfaction and gone to employee engagement, and the reason is because every single research study done on pretty much every business performance outcome that you could think of, from customer satisfaction to ROI to everything, does have a cause effect with employee engagement. And so as a business owner or leader, it's incumbent upon us, and it's really malpractice if we're not looking at something that has such a strong impact. And so then the question is, what is employee engagement? If we've established pretty clearly that it is important for numerous reasons. So there's a lot of definitions out there, but I think that the nut of it is discretionary effort. So is somebody meeting the standard of the job, or are they putting in that extra effort, that discretionary effort, where they seem happy, they're energized, they go out of their way, that extra energy that they bring, physical energy, mental energy, emotional energy, the whole thing. So again, we don't want to confuse that with happiness. So, the reality check here is this picture on the side that we have of the 1 out of the 5 employees today, and this is across the board, give that full discretionary effort, or what we're calling are fully engaged. And so the question that I would encourage you guys to think about is, if you look at your top performers, your most reliable teammates, how much extra effort are they putting in compared to your lower performing teammates? So, now that we've kind of defined what employee engagement is and hit a few highlights about the research is showing, what we want to ask is, how does this really translate to impact company performance and financial results? And so I'd like Paul to talk a little bit about what that looks like for us.
Yeah, definitely. So in the end, business schools and think tanks are always coming up with ideas. They're coming up with lots of research. So really, why is this topic of employee engagement actually matter in day in and day out? And Adam Grant, he published a book recently called Give and Take. And in there, he reveals some significant research. And one is that teams that saw the impact of their work and had meaning there, right? They invested 2 times more discretionary effort and delivered 2.7 times better results than those who did not, or the teams that did not. And so, the question becomes, what if your team delivered 2.7 times better results than they are today? And I want to show you what ISR found in their study on engaged versus disengaged teams or low engagement teams. And these numbers are just really, really significant. When you look at the difference, engaged or high engagement teams are bringing 19.2% more growth in operating income. That's not income versus the low engagement segment. It's actually growth in their business, right? 32% more net income, and earnings per share follows. And then on the low engagement side, they're actually declining. They're dropping in all 3 areas: income, operating income, net income, and earnings per share. And so this is really significant. And so I want to kind of slow it down here and really ask you, how would it feel to have your net income up by 32%? Do you really think it's possible? I know when I think about that, I think, wow, to increase my net income by 32%, it's going to take a lot of effort. I'm going to make a lot of changes. I gotta invest some money. But really, these teams are producing more because of that discretionary effort of engaged employees. And so I just want to share a brief story about one of the social enterprises that I worked with. It was a company of all millennials. It was a hipster paradise, to say the least. It was founded on purpose, ironically, and it attracted some of the best talent to work for us. So talent was not an issue. We were growing the top line fast, but burning tons of cash. And as the top line grew, we became less about purpose and more about providing the things that increased satisfaction. The employees were saying they wanted things like ping pong tables and dogs in the office and scooters and things like this. And we provided, we fulfilled all the items that give this demographic satisfaction, but we failed to engage about 80% of the team. They just weren't engaged in giving discretionary effort. And so what happened was, when revenue began to stall, rather than raising more money to address the issues of the business, we decided to address the disengaged state of the team and allow them to address the issues facing the business. And so we looked around and decided to retain everyone that was demonstrating this idea of discretionary effort. And within about 60 days, this team was passionate, they were engaged, they reworked the operations to function on just 20% of the resources, 20% of the people. And within that time, they launched a whole new offering. Culture skyrocketed. There was nothing that the team couldn't pull off, and the results were phenomenal. In the same 60 days, they turned a $250,000 a month cash burn into a cash flow positive business. They were back in the black for the first time in 2 years, and revenue was growing again. So this idea of engaging your team, really getting that discretionary effort where they can just apply themselves in a whole new way into building your business with you, is just a significant thing. But Angela, we kind of fell backwards into it a little bit. We weren't so intentional about it, probably like you are as an expert in culture building and team building. So tell us some of the best ways that you've found to build employee engagement.
Yeah, I think that's an important question. And I think, again, the nutshell is relationship. And we know that any healthy relationship is 2 ways. Otherwise, it's a slave, master, codependent, alcoholic. And one thing that I would encourage us all is that we all have the relationship skills. We just need to transfer them to our workplace. And sometimes we fail to do that. And so when it comes to the how do you do it, it really is based on that relationship thing. So we all know that if we have a significant other and we tell them, hey, Just to let you know, please assume that I love you unless you hear otherwise from me. It's probably not going to go very well for us. But sometimes what we'll do with our employees is basically send them that same message and say, hey, unless you hear otherwise from me, assume that you're doing a good job. So my encouragement would be to essentially transfer over the relationship skills that you have. And what we've done is we have listed here 3 significant interventions, the top ones according to research that we can do. And so what I want to encourage you to do as an action item after this webinar is to really look at specifically how you can do these in your organization. Because just like we know to say I love you, it's not rocket science, we may fail to do it. These are not rocket science kinds of things, but we may fail to do them in the day-to-day running of our business. So the first one that we have up here as an intervention that research supports is providing opportunities for development. So we all know that we have a need to be the best version of ourselves, and so what we want to do is to provide consistent opportunities in our organization for people to become the best version of themselves. The second thing is building trusted leadership, and as the leadership of your organization, this squarely falls on you to have that underlying trust, and the way that trust is established is essentially making sure that the other person in the relationship understands that everything I do is not in my best interest, i.e. in the best interest of the organization, but it also incorporates your best interest in making sure that we're taking care of you and that those things are not mutually exclusive. The third thing that we have on here is what we're focused on in our talk today is really connecting purpose to work so that my purpose and the purpose of my organization are not mutually exclusive, but rather they work together. So what we've built with the Co.tribute platform is really a turnkey solution for that. So again, we know that it's a basic thing, but how are we actually going to institute that into our organization? So Co.tribute really does that for you so that it's from leadership to HR and culture to sales and marketing. This platform gives all of your departments an opportunity to creatively infuse purpose into their job and into the organization. So in a nutshell, if we're looking at what Co.tribute is we're a SaaS platform that helps your company and your team to repurpose their everyday work by linking it, again, we're talking about building bridges, to the causes they're most passionate about and making an impact together. So this really brings that whole team concept into play.
Hey, Angela, so we've discussed the vital link between purpose and engagement and between engagement and company performance, but show us a few of the elements on the Co.tribute platform that bring purpose to the team in a compelling way.
Yeah, and I think it's important because we have spent a lot of time strategizing the how part of everything that we've been talking about. And so there's 5 key things that we built into it that we're going to talk about here. The first thing is a company dashboard. And this is really about visibility. Things not just happening in the C office, but really being visible, which is extremely important to millennials to have visibility into what's going on. So this is where I can see as an employee the impact that my team is having as we meet real needs. We also have a component of an activity summary where I can see what others on my team are supporting. And this really helps to build those connections between what you're doing and what you're doing and what I'm doing so that it's more what we're doing rather than what I'm doing. We also have notifications. That's more of that kind of social media feel that allows me to engage and encourage others, and they can engage and encourage me. And this is what kind of keeps it alive and keeps that interaction flowing. We also have something we're really excited about that adds a lot of impact. And that's a volunteering component where it allows my teammates and I to share about where we're giving our time and really kind of uniquely share some of that enthusiasm and excitement about the causes that we're passionate about. We also have something that I think is, well, I don't think it is, unique to Co.tribute, and that's impact reports. So this is not a generic report, but rather it's very specific to what my team and I have been doing with the nonprofits that we're supporting. It's a monthly report. And what's really neat about it is these are not statistics in a bullet point format, although we have the statistics to back it up. These are really stories from the front lines. And especially with that millennial generation, they really resonate with story. And so this is, again, a way to really draw them in. So this is really about the reality of building a culture of engagement that's ready to take action and actually do something about it, and not just pay lip service to the fact that we want our work to have purpose.
So the reality of building a culture of engagement is to take action now, right? We need to do something. And so I've got an idea for you, right? As you kick off to 2016, I want you to kick it off with purpose, right? So how do we leverage purpose in your company this year, and how do we do it without taking so much of your time that it derails really lifting off the year and on the right foot? So, you know, Co.tribute can help you in this way. If we can get 45-minute investment of your time, you know, we can get you set up with our client success team to add your users and configure your preferences. You can fund your account using or capturing the tax benefit this year, right, that you're already looking to do with all your year-end tax planning with your CPA. And so whatever you're looking to do, you can put that into the charitable trust, and then you can use that throughout the year to drive engagement with your team. So you get the benefit of giving to the charity, but also bringing your company or your team along with you. And then, you know, I'd suggest surprising your team with it at your Christmas party if you're having one, or your next staff meeting, where you say, hey, I really want to be about giving. I want to be about generosity. I want to be about meeting real human needs around the world as we work together and accomplish our goals. So, you know, really, it's free for companies to get started. It's free for companies on an ongoing basis. There's no long-term commitment to it, very minimal effort to get started. So there's really no objections, right? And it's something you can either start with the whole company or start small and then grow over time at your own pace. So, I mean, I don't mean to make this a big sales pitch here at the end, but, you know, now is the time to kick off 2016 with purpose and add meaning into the daily life of your team. So, you know, we have a couple things we reference throughout here, some data, some white papers, some things like that. You know, we're happy to send those to you. Just send us an email. We've put a link up here on the screen, and Convene can probably help get those to you as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Paul and Angela, for taking the time to go through how to get your employees to engage. Yeah, thank you. I think there's a lot of good information that you guys were able to glean from what was said by them. And I just want to close our time with a word of prayer and thank the two of them for presenting, and thank you all for joining us. Heavenly Father, we just come before you and we thank you for the way you work in each of our lives and the way that you have blessed us with different gifts and talents to impact those around us, Father. And we pray for all those that are on this call or listening to the video, that they, as they are thinking about what does it mean to impact the lives of those that surround them, the employees that are with them, what does it mean to truly ignite in them and engage their purpose and their call in their daily work, Father. We pray that you would just give some vision and give some wisdom, and that people would reach out to Paul and to Angela, Co.tribute, Convene, and seek out ways to really impact their companies in a positive way.